Welcome back. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself sitting in a silent home, listening to nothing but the ticking of a clock, and wondered, is this really all life has to offer now? Have you ever felt that subtle ache inside when you see neighbors gathered with loved ones for a backyard barbecue, while your own house stays quiet? For many people in their later years, that silence can feel overwhelming. It can feel intimidating. And I want you to understand something important. It's more than simple sadness. Leading medical research published in respected journals has shown that long-term loneliness can affect your health as seriously as smoking 15 cigarettes every day. Yes, 15 cigarettes. It can raise blood pressure, interfere with restful sleep, and even begin to affect memory and concentration. But today, speaking to you as a family doctor, I want to share something powerful that I've learned after decades of caring for patients. There is an enormous difference between being alone and feeling lonely. And I genuinely believe that learning to enjoy your own company on your own terms may be one of the greatest keys to peace, freedom, and lasting well-being in this stage of life. This isn't just a theory. I'll never forget a patient named Arthur. After losing his wife, with his children living all the way across the country, he came into my office looking defeated. He stared down at his hands and quietly said, "Doctor, I feel like nobody sees me anymore." He told me he spent his days sitting in his recliner, watching television, simply waiting for the phone to ring. Then 6 months later, he came back. I barely recognized him. He sat taller, looked directly at me and said, "I'm busier than I've ever been, and honestly, I'm happier than I've ever been." And here's the surprising part. He was still living alone. Arthur didn't transform his life by suddenly surrounding himself with new friends. His breakthrough came from discovering 6 proven psychological strategies that helped him turn painful loneliness into something much more meaningful. Purposeful solitude. In this video, I'm going to walk you through those same 6 strategies. These aren't abstract concepts or complicated techniques. They're practical, easy, and completely free actions you can begin today. And be sure to stay until strategy number 6. According to Arthur, that was the one that changed everything. It gave him a simple way to reconnect with the world without joining noisy groups or forcing awkward conversations. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. If any of what I've described sounds familiar, leave a simple yes in the comments below. It lets me know I'm speaking to the right people, and it reminds others that they're not alone in feeling this way. Now let's get started. Let's begin with strategy number 1. See solitude as an opportunity. Many of us are uncomfortable with silence, aren't we? From childhood, we're taught that happiness is tied to being around people. A lively home, a crowded dinner table, the sound of conversation and laughter. Those things are wonderful. But because we associate connection with happiness, a quiet home can sometimes feel unsettling. After the children grow up and leave, or after retirement arrives, that silence can seem wrong. It can feel empty, as though life has passed us by or we've somehow been forgotten. But from a doctor's perspective, I see something different. For 40, 50, even 60 years, your brain was constantly responding to demands. Children needed breakfast, employers needed answers, spouses needed support. Traffic demanded patience. There was always something requiring your attention. Your mind was always switched on. Psychologists explain that our brains need periods of quiet to process experiences, sort emotions, and make sense of life. Without that time, experiences simply pile up year after year until we feel overwhelmed, anxious, and emotionally exhausted without fully understanding why. That's one reason this feeling can hit so hard after 60. It isn't weakness. It's the result of decades spent caring for others. You spent much of your life being the provider, the caregiver, the helper, the fixer, and you probably did those roles exceptionally well. But somewhere along the way, many people lose touch with who they are when they're not taking care of someone else. Now, for the first time, you've been given something precious: time. Yet because nobody taught us how to simply enjoy our own company, that gift can feel more like a burden. This often creates guilt. Maybe you sit down with a good novel and immediately think, "I should be cleaning," or I should call somebody. Or perhaps you turn on the television not because there's anything you want to watch, but simply because the noise fills the room. That restless discomfort is the symptom. There's fascinating science behind it. Your brain contains something known as the default mode network. This system becomes active when you aren't focused on external tasks, when you're quietly reflecting, daydreaming, or simply sitting with your thoughts. It helps organize memories, process emotions, and strengthen your sense of identity. When we constantly fill every moment with distractions, we deprive this important part of the brain of the work it was designed to do. That's why people who embrace healthy solitude often report feeling calmer, more creative, and mentally sharper. In many ways, they're allowing their brains to heal. I think of Margaret, a retired schoolteacher I once treated. She came to see me feeling down and told me she felt guilty whenever she sat down to read in the morning. I asked her why. She said reading at 9 o'clock made her feel lazy. We talked about reclaiming her time. Today, she calls 9 o'clock her sacred hour. She brews tea, plays classical music, and spends that hour reading. One day, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Doctor, for the first time in 50 years, I don't have to rush for anyone." She discovered peace not by adding more noise to her life, but by welcoming the quiet. So here's my prescription. Stop automatically reaching for the remote. Stop feeling guilty for slowing down. The next time silence makes you uneasy, sit with it for 60 seconds. Just breathe. Then ask yourself a question you may not have asked in years. What do I want to do right now? Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's researching your family history. Maybe it's simply watching birds outside the window. Choose one hobby or interest you've always wanted to revisit. And remember, this isn't about becoming isolated. It's not about shutting people out. It's about recharging yourself. When your own cup is full, you can show up for family and friends feeling peaceful and present instead of emotionally drained. Now let's move to strategy number 2, create meaning through personal rituals. One of the biggest challenges of retirement or living alone is the disappearance of structure. The work schedule is gone. The commute is gone. The family routines are gone. Suddenly days start blending together. Monday feels like Thursday. Saturday feels like Tuesday. Without structure, life can begin to feel aimless. That's where rituals become powerful. When I say ritual, I'm not talking about anything complicated. I mean small, intentional habits repeated consistently. Psychologically, rituals act like anchors. They give your day shape and stability. They quietly tell your brain everything is okay. There is order. There is something good ahead. Most of your previous routines revolved around other people. Preparing meals for children, going to work, attending meetings, helping family members. Now those structures have disappeared. To thrive, you need to build new ones for yourself. That's how you reclaim ownership of your days. If you find yourself staying in pajamas until noon, forgetting what day it is, or constantly wondering what the point of anything is, those are signs that your life needs anchors. Research consistently shows that older adults who maintain simple daily rituals experience greater life satisfaction and lower rates of depression. Why? Because rituals create predictable moments of accomplishment and pleasure. Those little wins matter. I remember David, a retired engineer who struggled after leaving his career. His life had always revolved around schedules and goals. Without them, he felt lost. Together, we created a simple morning routine. Each day he grinds fresh coffee beans, completes the crossword puzzle in ink, and walks exactly 1 mile, rain or shine. He later told me, "Doctor, I know it sounds simple, but it gives me a reason to get up every morning." That's the power of ritual. Start tiny. Maybe it's taking 5 deep breaths before getting out of bed. Maybe it's preparing a proper Sunday meal just for yourself. Maybe it's an evening stretching session or 10 minutes of quiet reflection before sleep. Whatever you choose, make it intentional. Make it yours. This isn't another task on your to-do list. It's a reminder that you matter. And if you already have a meaningful daily ritual, share it below by commenting "My Ritual." Your idea may inspire someone else. Strategy number 3, commit to lifelong learning. One of the most damaging myths in our culture is the belief that learning belongs only to young people. Many older adults convince themselves they're too old to learn technology, languages, or new skills. As a doctor, I can tell you that belief is simply untrue. Your brain remains capable of growth throughout your entire life. In medicine, we call this neuroplasticity. It means your brain can adapt, change, and form new connections no matter your age. Every time you learn something new, you strengthen those pathways. You make your brain more resilient. And unlike earlier stages of life, you no longer have to learn for grades, promotions, or obligations. Now you can learn purely because something interests you. That's a beautiful freedom. When learning stops, your world becomes smaller. When learning continues, your world keeps expanding. If you often feel bored, mentally foggy, or disconnected from modern life, your mind may simply be hungry for stimulation. Research from major institutions consistently shows that mentally engaging activities help reduce the risk of cognitive decline and memory problems. Think of learning as exercise for your brain. Susan, one of my patients, always wanted to learn about ancient Egypt, but never had the time. At 72, she finally decided to start. She checked out one library book. Then her granddaughter introduced her to YouTube documentaries and online lectures. Today, she's the family expert on pyramids and pharaohs. She once told me, "Doctor, I feel more interesting now than I did 10 years ago." She wasn't just gaining knowledge. She was rebuilding confidence. So choose one topic that sparks your curiosity. Visit the library. Watch documentaries. Try a language learning app. Read biographies. Solve puzzles. The goal isn't achievement. The goal is curiosity. Become an explorer again. And if you're amazed by what your brain can still accomplish, leave a wow in the comments. Strategy number 4, reconnect with nature and gentle movement. When loneliness creeps in, it's easy to spend entire days sitting. Then comfortable becomes permanent. Before long, hours disappear. Your body stiffens. Your joints ache. Your mood declines. And the cycle repeats. Movement breaks that cycle. Even gentle activity triggers the release of endorphins, your body's natural mood enhancers and pain relievers. Stepping outside also exposes you to sunlight, which supports vitamin D production and emotional well-being. Fresh air has a measurable impact on brain chemistry. And the best part, it costs nothing. Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about marathons. I'm not talking about intense gym workouts. For most people over 65, gentle movement is more than enough. Walking, stretching, gardening, watering plants. That's all it takes. If you wake up feeling stiff, sluggish, or emotionally heavy, your body may simply be asking for movement. Research repeatedly confirms that regular walking can be one of the most effective natural treatments for mild depression. Nature itself has healing effects. Even viewing trees, flowers, or green spaces can reduce stress hormones and lower blood pressure. I once had a patient named Robert who struggled with painful knees and deep sadness after losing his wife. My first prescription wasn't exercise. It was simple. Sit on your porch for 15 minutes each morning. That's all. Soon he began noticing birds. Then he bought potted plants. Then he started walking to the mailbox. Eventually, he was taking daily walks around the neighborhood. One day he smiled and said, "Those birds and tomato plants feel like old friends." So tomorrow, step outside. Listen, look around, notice the sky. That's enough to begin. If you'll commit to 5 minutes of fresh air tomorrow, comment healthy below. Strategy number 5, practice gratitude and positive self-talk. When you spend a lot of time alone, your thoughts become your closest companions. Take 5 deep breaths. Unfortunately for many people, that companion is an inner critic, a voice that says, "No one cares. You're a burden. You're not useful anymore. You should have done more." We often speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to another human being, and that constant negativity becomes toxic. Psychologists call this our negativity bias. The brain naturally scans for problems and threats. It helped our ancestors survive. But today, that same system often turns inward. Gratitude and positive self-talk are tools that help counterbalance that tendency. They train the brain to notice what's still good. As we age, it's easy to focus entirely on losses, lost opportunities, lost strength, lost loved ones, lost roles. The list can seem endless. Gratitude doesn't deny those losses. It simply reminds you that they aren't the whole story. Research has repeatedly shown that gratitude practices increase happiness, reduce depressive symptoms, and even improve physical health. Helen, one of my patients, constantly worried she was a burden to her children. I asked her to buy a simple notebook. Each night she wrote down one good thing that happened. At first she struggled. One entry simply said, "The soup tasted good," but she kept going. A phone call, a sunny afternoon, a bird outside the window. A month later, her notebook was overflowing with positive moments. She looked at me and said, "Doctor, I realize my life is still full. Tonight, try the same exercise. Write down one good thing. Just one. And whenever that harsh inner voice appears, ask yourself, would I say this to my closest friend?" If the answer is no, don't say it to yourself. You deserve the same kindness. And finally, strategy number 6. Discover new ways to connect with the world. This is the strategy Arthur said changed everything. Many people tell me, "I don't have friends nearby. I don't know where to meet people. I'm not the type who joins groups." But here's the secret. Meaningful connection doesn't require a crowded social calendar. Real connection comes from two things: feeling part of something larger than yourself, and feeling useful. That's it. For years, your sense of purpose was built into daily life. Work, family, responsibilities. People needed you. Now, many of those roles have changed. To thrive, you must create new opportunities to feel connected and needed. And often those opportunities are surprisingly quiet. This isn't about finding friends. It's about finding purpose. If you feel lonely or unimportant, that's often a sign that you're ready for a purpose, not a party. Research consistently shows that volunteering is one of the fastest ways to improve happiness and overall well-being. Helping others gives your brain a powerful boost. It creates meaning. It creates belonging. And it reminds you that your contribution still matters. Which brings us back to Arthur, the man who once sat in his recliner, feeling invisible. His solution wasn't bingo. It wasn't a social club. He began volunteering at the local library for a few hours each week. His job, repairing damaged children's books. He quietly glued torn pages and restored worn covers. One day he told me, "Doctor, I may not talk much, but every book I fix helps a child enjoy a story. I feel useful again." That was the turning point. So ask yourself, where can I contribute? Could you help at a food pantry? Volunteer at a church? Assist at a library? Call someone who might also be lonely? Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It simply has to matter. Take one small step this week. Open the door just a little. Let the world back in on your terms. And as we wrap up today, let's return one last time to Arthur. He still lives alone. His home is still quiet, but he's no longer lonely. He's a volunteer, a book repairer, a walker, a bird watcher. Most importantly, he's someone actively living life on his own terms. His story reminds us that happiness while living alone isn't something that magically appears. It's a choice, a habit, a skill that grows stronger with practice. If there's one thing I hope you remember, it's this. Your worth is not determined by how many invitations you receive or how many friends are in your phone. Your value comes from the peace, purpose, and kindness you cultivate within yourself. Today, we explored 6 powerful strategies. But knowledge alone changes nothing. Action changes lives. So I want to ask you one final question. What is one small promise you're making to yourself after watching this video? Maybe it's starting a gratitude journal. Maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk. Maybe it's sitting quietly without turning on the television. Whatever it is, share it in the comments below. Your commitment could inspire someone else to take their first step too. And if today's message brought you comfort, encouragement, or hope, please take a moment to like this video. And if you'd like more conversations like this, be sure to subscribe. You're not just subscribing to a channel. You're becoming part of a community dedicated to living wiser, healthier, and more meaningful lives together. Finally, think about one person who may be sitting alone today, feeling exactly as Arthur once did. Share this video with them. It might be the encouragement they need most. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.